Okay, so this is the Extraordinary Machine main podcast session without the pregame. You see the two big chunks here before and after the break we took. I've already lined up the claps here. You can see the waveforms. First one, and by the way, I am using the mouse wheel to scrolling the mouse wheel up and down will expand and condense the timeline here. And there's the second clap we did for the second half. So this will just be like some quick and dirty editing tips to show you just how I work, my workflow that saves me a lot of time and could save you hours. It's not the only way to do things, obviously, but I recommend it. So first thing we want to do is right-click, drag, put everything in a group. I'm pressing the hotkey G. That should be the default G to group. Default for Reaper. We're going to check on that in a moment, though. That way, as a group, if I click and grab any element, everything moves together. Nothing gets out of sync. And even the drops track down here stays with it. So we'll put it back there. Notice this is the theme music. It's not part of the group, so I can freely move it. Okay, first things first. We're going to do hotkeys. We need to make sure our hotkeys are ready for most efficient editing. So hotkeys are actually under Actions and Show Action List, which is not intuitive. So that's why I had to look it up and point it out. So the first thing we'll do is group, just to I can verify that. I'm scrolling down until I see the letter G. Item grouping, group items should be the hotkey G. If you want to remove things from a group, you can use U. Okay, other ones that we want, one of the most important editing actions is split. There's so many actions in here, sometimes you gotta scroll. So I'm looking for the letter S for split. That should be the default. You want split items at edit or play cursor. We're going to be using that hundreds of times per episode. Letter S. And take note that these are all things I'm going to do with my left hand resting on the left side to make workflow most efficient. And also single keystrokes rather than multiple keys, shift and control and all that shit. This will save you years of your life. I am convinced of it. This one is more of a custom that I discovered after a while of doing this. A lot of times we want to mute certain sections if they have noise in them or whatever reason we want to mute. I think the default was Alt-M. And again, to save years of my life, I wanted a single keystroke that was already where my fingers were on the left side. So I changed it to E. It can be whatever you want, but E is right over here, and the word mute ends in the letter E. M. I didn't do M because, well, it's a little further to move my hand, and M is already for marker. It places a marker at the cursor. I like just having it there, whatever. E works well for mute for me. The other one, believe it or not, to save the file. Here we go. File save project. Sorry, just a second. I changed to the hotkey Q because it's right there where my left pinky is, and I save every couple of little things I do, I save obsessively. And I recommend getting into that habit of being an obsessive project saver. It prevents you from a lot of heartbreak. Just always be saving. ABS. So yeah, the letter Q allows me to easily save things every few moves. I think if I think of another one, I'll come back to the actions list. Okay, so now that we've grouped everything, we see where the first clap is. Okay, what sucks about this screencast thing now is I'm going to hit Q. Look where my mouse is. It's been modified. I'm hitting the letter Q hotkey, and modify goes away because it's now saved. Screencast does not let me play the computer audio through the screencast unless I start paying for screencasts. So that's a bunch of bullshit. So you won't hear what's going on, but I'll try to make it work without that just for this brief tutorial here. This point, as you can see visually, is where I begin my intro sound collage. So we can go ahead and put the cursor here. When you hit S for split on something that's grouped, everything in the group is going to split. Then I can move that left side where we're just talking and clapping over. Get it out of the way. It's not part of the podcast anymore. This little this range here, the timeline selection is the length of our podcast. I look down here in the bottom right, 2 hours, 18 minutes. That'll be cut down significantly as we edit. So now I can click and drag the theme music over, and I'll fine tune it later, but the theme music, as you can see, fades out into my intro. Top left of these objects here, click one. When they're in a group, the fade will happen. I've set the fade default to this shape curvature, which I like for this purpose, for most podcast editing. It'll just fade up into the intro. I'm not fading the intro itself, but just in case there's any, just to make it a smooth transition there. And I'll fine tune it later. I know you can't hear what's going on, so I won't mess with it. Skipping ahead to the end of my intro, I'm going to, as I did in my last video, shift plus up and down. We're going to make things taller to be able to see them better. The waveforms, that is. It's not changing the volume, just the height of the graphic. I could put an S there, a split, and kind of have it overlap and fade a little bit better. I may not need to. I'm going to hit Control Z, undo. That's undone. Actually, a good reason to have a split. Let's see. What are these noises? Laughs? Okay, I made some dumb joke and there was some laughter. What I often do for these intros is, let's see how that sounds. Oh, that sounds like the doorbell. Yeah, good one. Me. Just a quick little split crossfade there. It should default to crossfade when you drag and overlap these items. So here's the magic of the E mute hotkey. We could hit delete on these and get rid of them, but what I like to do is E, 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 E. Now all four of these are muted. We're not going to have any noise over the top of the intro. There are some situations where we might want to allow chatter over it. We've had it in the past, but usually we don't. And so it's a lot cleaner. Doesn't have other stuff going on. We just hear the intro. Okay, so I talk. Okay, this is a pause where I make some noise with my mouth, which is something we all do, and I wish I could stop doing, but I can't. Make a split right there. We don't need all this noise, so we're going to actually eliminate it by clicking and dragging the side here to trim it. Drag this over, and it's like magic. The wasted space is taken out. Then mouth noises are gone. Interesting stuff going on. But okay. So little mouth sounds like that. I can put S for split on it, drag it over, it's gone. It's easy. Big old breath. I mean, I could take that out if I want. You can see I do it mostly visually now, although I still listen. You can see all this noise here. Do a split, drag. These crossfades are like magic for eliminating a lot of this mouth noise. And at the same time, you are saving time and taking awkward, unnecessarily long pauses out of everything. It makes the podcast more snappy, sounds more professional. Anyway, so I talk for a bit, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go through and fine tune it better. And maybe that'll be a different video. But let's see here. We're all talking. Another little pause there. I'm going to truncate my pause. You know, you can do this hundreds of times. Let's okay. What's in Matt's track here? There's nothing in Matt's track except a little bit of noise. So I can actually take this object that I've highlighted. You can tell because it's white. Hit E. Now that noise is gone. That whole section is muted. We're just cleaning up. Let's say I wanted to be cruel and remove these laughs. I could mute them, but I'm not going to do that. We like laughs here. What else? Oh, speaking of God, the word which I say 5,000 times a show, I can just take it right the fuck out. Now that never happened. I'm gaslighting everyone. I don't say Now although I remove all the time, sometimes I'll make the strategic decision to leave certain ones in, either to sound more natural. Well, it's usually to sound more human. That's the reason I would leave it in, or just to keep the flow preserved. More mouth sounds and breaths. Just smooth right over that shit like magic. More of it. I can see it coming visually because I've done this like I'm a zombie for podcast editing. That's what my life is now. You can use shift up and down to see who has the worst noise floor, and the way the waveform. So you can see there's more noise floor on Josh and Matt. Not to pick on anyone. It's just the environment most likely. Logan and I pretty damn clean. So I don't know. We're in different environments. I'm lucky enough that I get a very quiet room that I do things in, and other than my cat, if the cat's not around, not a lot of noise coming through. And it doesn't pick up AC a lot in my room. The downside is that it gets very fucking hot. Anyway, well, God, what else should I show? That's most of what editing is. I should do another. I'll do another video on more advanced stuff, but the main things to remember: get your hotkeys ready. That's going to make your workflow better. The action list. Set it to, I set mine to E for mute, S for split. Split is like the most commonly used thing. G for group. I think that's default. S split should also be default. Hotkey Q for saving. Those are the most commonly used ones. Let's see here. One last thing. I'll just try to get an idea of the length of this. So this is where we took our break. That's a bunch of wasted space. That's our clap. I'll do a split. We don't need all this. Right click, drag, highlight it, hit the delete key. It's gone. Drag this over because there's not going to be a big gap there. This is just to give a rough estimate. I'll fine tune that later. Drag our marker, our time selection over a bit. And it's down to like 214 now. It'll go down a lot more as we go. That's my outro recording. There's the aux stinger. All right. Any questions, ask me. Hopefully this screencast actually worked.